Anyway, that was a build I just now did with, I mean, it's hard for me to talk on camera just straight to an empty audience, but uh, that was a build that, like, that's why the Moorish Science Temple is so important, not for that all that religiosity and stuff. You know, that's important too, to get yourself right, but also so that you could see what's going on. And even if it is or is not, as I explained it, it gives me a perspective of it from my nationality, from my understanding. So I identify with the Haitians. I identify with the United States. I identify with Morocco. I identify with Ghana. I identify with Sudan. I identify with Brazil. I identify with Peru. I identify with Panama. I identify with Mexico, because I understand the breadth and size and vast estate of the Moorish Empire. So, and you know, people like want to argue that point down about, oh man, the Moorish Empire. Well, I'll pull up next time. We'll pull up some case laws and things like that where the, you know, we got to pull up a lot of stuff, because a lot of stuff we just ignorantly oppose or don't understand. And I hear people arguing against Moors on the street, and you know, even Asiatics, they be arguing against them, and I guess they want to be stateless, nationless, and that's cool. You know what I'm saying? Be what you want to be. Be Batman if you want. But you know, it gives me understanding. And when you read these laws and it breaks these things down, you know, it says that's why you say you got to bring this stuff in intelligent tone to people who know the law. And though they might not tell you everything that I said, they might be like, yeah, bro's right on. You might not know how right on he is, but he's right on. So, and how do you know that? Why do you think like that? I think like that because of the awakening process that continued when I came into the temple, because you know, we enter in this world awake, and we some kind of way get put to sleep depending on what we're going through. But I had these awakening processes already through just life coming up, being raised by my mother and father, being raised up as Hebrew Israelites. I already had an understanding of a nationality or a nationhood, something that was not connected to the world around it, something that was independent and something that was going to seek to establish itself, and not partaking in the things that the other nations or whatever were doing. Like when we came up, we were almost like treated like foreigners for real, so, or whatever you want to call it. But so it made it easier for me to understand certain aspects of what the Prophet brought, especially like if you read the Holy Quran, the Moorish Science Temple, like in the opening. Let me read the opening real quick. It says, see, now I'm charged up so I can go in a little bit. But it says on page 3, it says, by the Prophet Noble Drew Ali, the industrious acts. Oh, this thing is acting crazy. It says, the industrious acts of the Muslims of Northwest and Southwest Africa. These are the Moabites, Hamathites, Canaanites, who were driven out of the land of Canaan by Joshua and received permission from the pharaohs of Egypt to settle in that portion of Egypt. In later years, they formed themselves kingdoms. These kingdoms are called this day Morocco, Algiers, Tunis, Tripoli, etc. So, you know, when you're educated as what we call NBCs, which is a Negro, Black, or a colored person, that a Negro, Black, and a colored is a person that does not have a nationality. They're not aware of it. If you say something about nationality to someone who calls himself Negro, Black, or colored, remember I said black, so if you have people call themselves black, Negro, Black, or colored, NBC, they will not know what you're talking about if you say something about nationality. They will, you know, blank out, and they won't be able to continue on the conversation with you, nor are they interested in things that have to do with nationality, unless they have a job where they work in a place where it's required that you deal with these people for the United States, and they have a nationality, and this is your job. This is what you do. You're a lawyer, or you work in this department or whatever. So you know it because you're aware of it only in relation that it deals with other people's nationality, but not your nationality. So if you ask most NBCs, like, you know, what is your nationality? Just find out what they say. I'm not even going to tell you what they say. I already know what they say, because I already know what I used to say. So, anyways, I was trying to pull something up, but this computer computers act crazy. So I like that portion, and I like the other historical portion, chapter 45. Of the Holy Quran, the Moorish Science Symbol of America. And it says, chapter 45, the divine origin of the Asiatic nations. Let me put this thing on because these lights are bothering me again. So it says, the fallen sons and daughters of the Asiatic nation of North America need to learn to love instead of hate, and to know of their higher self and lower self. This is the uniting of the Holy Quran of Mecca for teaching and instructing all Moorish Americans, etc. The key of civilization was and is in the hands of the Asiatic nations. The Moorish, who were the ancient Moabites and the founders of the holy city of Mecca. The Egyptians, who were the Hammatites and of a direct descendant of Mizraim. The Arabians, the seed of Hagar, Japanese and Chinese. The Hindus of India, the descendants of the ancient Canaanites, Hittites, and Moabites from the land of Canaan. The Asiatic nations and countries in North, South, and Central America. The Moorish Americans and Mexicans. In North America, Brazilians, Argentinians, and Chileans. In South America, Colombians, Nicaraguans, and the natives of San Salvador. In Central America, etc. All of these are Muslims. The Turks are the true descendants of Hagar, who are the chief protectors of the Islamic creed of Mecca, beginning from Muhammad I, the founder of the uniting of Islam by the command of the great universal God Allah. So that's a very good chapter, because it says these. It's talking about, this chapter is really talking about the divine origin of these Asiatic nations. So it's saying they have a divine origin. They don't have earthly salvation. They come from a divine. They have a divine origin. They connect to, and that's important. It's an important message when you're talking to people who have been told that they are nothing. They come from nothing, or they come from a monkey. You know what I'm saying? Like some kind of way, like someone has convince you, and you got a lot of people be going around telling that stuff to other people, that man evolved up from a monkey or an ape. And it's like, okay, so you're telling me if you had pictures of your grandmother and your grandmother's your grandmother, one of them's going to be a monkey? Come on, man. So it's like, when you have people who have, that's what we call, you're in the stage of fallen humanity. If you have that in your line, then yeah, you are going to act like that beast. So anyways, and when you teach about the divine origin of these Asiatic nations to uplift those people, and really everybody should be, like the prophet said in the warning that he had in 1928, he said, everybody should be part of this task in helping me uplift these people, because look what they're doing. Look what they're doing. You know why they're doing that? Because they don't have a nationality. You know why they're doing that? Because they don't have a proper understanding of their own history. They think that they are slaves. They think they came from that originally. And because of that, if you think that only thing is you was from the hood, or you from prison, or you from like some low beginning, you're going to manifest that every day. So until you understand something higher about yourself, it's like, hey man, you better help me lift these people up, or they're going to burn this whole place to the ground on some foolishness. They could get set up to do it. They could just get, somebody could put a battery in their back and they would go do it. But anyways, and it could be a bunch of falsehood. So because they're nationless, they don't have a flag, they don't have understanding, they don't have a history. They could be put to task by anybody. They are something that was, their history is something that's fact, it's doctored. It's doctored up. Like you could just make it up. You could change it. You can get to a certain point and then just say, we're going to throw this in there and take that part out. And that's what they're doing right now with the Department of Education. That if you go back and really read the case, Brown versus Board of Education, that's what the case was really about. There's an important part in there, and it talks about the importance of education and why it's so important. And basically it's saying, we're telling you why this is important as we want to integrate these schools. Like there's nothing wrong with necessarily with integration, but the issue with integration in the United States is integration is not just so people could be all in the same place and shop and go where they want to go. Integration serves a purpose of subjugating somebody, elevating somebody, creating a status quo, creating controls, getting everybody on the same marching order, letting people know their position in relation to the other people or in the society. That's what integration is for. It's to integrate them into a structure. It's not integration because we want all of y'all to live together and be harmonious, because people don't really live like that. Most people are going to live near people who are like them or think like them or listen to the same type of music or, have the same. Now, that's who they're usually going to get along with in their close circles. They're going to have some kind of shared history or past. But, it doesn't mean that you're going to be exclusive to that, because where I came from is multicultural. You know what I'm saying? So we build with everybody. But at the same time, when you force people into an integrated dynamic, that's, and then when you do it from a government position, you're doing it not how natural people would do it. They would just be like, yeah, I like this guy. I'm going to live near them. I'm going to talk near them. Okay, I respect them. But when you do it as part of a government-controlled situation from the Department of Education, it's like, no, they have a goal in mind when they integrate. They're not integrated. They don't need you. They don't need the government to integrate. You know what I'm saying? People were integrated before the government. They don't need the government to integrate. The government was the one that was enforcing all of the controls of separation and segregation. So the government cannot fix that control, because if segregation was mapped out for a purpose, unless you're saying your government is ignorant. Like, are you saying your founding fathers are ignorant or your government is ignorant? Like, no, none of those people are ignorant. They know exactly what they're doing. But so when they choose to segregate and they choose to end segregation, just like if they choose to enslave or they choose to end slavery, there's a reason behind it. It's not just because we're trying to get these two markers to get along. Like, no, you don't need the government process to do that, because people were already doing that. If you look at even the case the case they point to all the time, the Loving case, the Virginia case where the two people wanted to get married or whatever. They didn't need the government to integrate. They didn't need the government to find that this guy liked this lady and they wanted to live together and do whatever they wanted to do. It was the government that was controlling that matter. It made it a conflict. It made it an issue. But that would have never been an issue. The Moors used to, so-called integrate or whatever with the Italians. You know what I'm saying? So it's like there wasn't the people in Greece used to integrate into Africa and into Kemet, so to learn and share ideas and understanding. So, there was no issue. The issue was one that was created by the corporation of the United States for a purpose, passed off as racial, but those are not even the races. That's a system that they brought, or they borrowed, brought over, whatever you want to call it, from India, a caste system, a Brahmic caste system that was based on, it really didn't have anything to do with colors in the way that we're talking about. It had something to do with the Brahmic caste system, where white didn't have anything to do with your appearance necessarily. White, red, yellow, and black. They had four. Those were the four colors that they had for the Brahmic caste system. And when you get deeper into that, you could read into those things mean and everything like that. I don't want to sidetrack too much, which I've already did. I've already sidetracked. But anyways, so that's why they called this the West Indies, because they were bringing that Eastern Indian caste system structure over here. And what they did later on, they made the brown class. So now we have 5 castes. We have the white, the red, the yellow, the brown, and the black. And after the Civil War, then you had the invention of the NAACP, the National Association for the Advancement of the Colored People, because the white status was already pretty good, but we want to try to advance or control these reds, yellows, browns, and blacks. But the reds didn't really need them at that time, because they had theirs. They had a sovereign kind of situation worked out a little bit, and just the yellows and the browns and the blacks. But the blacks, they had a structure. They were supposed to be elevated to some degree to a status in some ways equal to a white, but it never could work out that way because it was too much part of the structure. And that was, why the Ku Klux Klan was created, to basically saying, well, you're not going to turn this situation into this situation. Like, all these colors are not going to be even. That's not how this game is set up. It's not even going to work like that. So there has to be, the white has to be up here and the black has to be down here. Now, it's up to them if they're going to call themselves black or not. If they're going to call themselves black, then they taking the bottom position. And, they got to apply for the white one, and we rejecting applications. Now, they can go back and they can proclaim their nationality and be who they were before they got put into this system. And everybody wasn't in that system. Very important to note. All so-called black people or African Americans or whatever you want to call them, whatever you're associating in here with whoever I'm talking about, because it's not, I'm just using those words because I know the limitation of the knowledge of people in general, myself and everybody else. So, because you're indoctrinated by this system. But the people who are called black or whatever, they had a nationality. They had a place they came from. Like, that was the importance of the movie Roots. Like, when Kunta Kinte was constantly reminding his children and his children's children and things like that. Like, look, man, this is our language. This is how we speak. This was my name. Like, don't ever forget that. And you see later down the line, they maintain that. But in this process, people can become disconnected from that. So anyways, the point was they became disconnected, and they had an opportunity to go back to a national understanding. But if they continue to call themselves black in that new state or situation or constitutional government or structure after 1870, then you would end up being in the same place. So that's why they made the 14th Amendment 3 years after they made the 13th Amendment. 14th and 15th Amendment was for those people who were continuing to be denationalized or were accepting of those statuses. You had people from 1870 to 1924 that were coming over. They were applying for certain statuses and then accepting other statuses when they were denied those statuses. So several people were coming over from the East, whatever, and they were applying for the white status because that's what status they were when they were back home. They were like, yeah, I was white. You see Marcus Garvey, he writes in his book, he says, well, when I was back home, I was white. But here they were calling them black. And we would never call ourselves black there if you had status. That's white meant you had a status. So you had a lot of people coming over there like, well, what's the highest status? Oh, it's white. Okay, yeah, let me apply for that. And they were like, no. I'm like, why? We reserved that for us. What are you talking about? So we'll get into that conversation one day, and it's a very interesting subject. But anyways, when you don't know that you have a history bigger than a black history is, I like how Tashriq Bey breaks the stuff down. Like, first he breaks it down from what the prophet says. The prophet says black according to science means death. I love the scene in Malcolm X, the movie, when he was in the prison and learning from Brother Baines, and Baines was getting them, this is what we go through in the prison all the time when you building with people and you're trying to educate them, bring them up, whatever. So you get those dictionaries out, you get those glossaries out, you get the law books out, you start going in, you start getting the legal treatises out, you start breaking down the Constitution, you start going in so you can understand. Like, you're not going to come in here this way and then leave out like. So that's why it's really good in the system. A lot of people that were in gangs and stuff like that, they come into the temple and they start learning. They rock that. The closest people to the Moors in the system is the Bloods, and they rock that 5-point star. So we have the educational sermons on what that 5-point star means, how important it is, and what it connects to. How did it come down to you? You know what I'm saying? And what is the history of these organizations? Like, let's get back on that. And then once we see that, then it's like, okay, we elevating. So then they teach theirs, and now you got people coming through. They ain't just running and gunning no more. You got people coming through like, they come out of the system, they like, now they still got that, not saying they got that same exact mindset, but yeah, but you already know what it was. You know what it was before I came in here, just like Jay-Z said, man, you was who you was before you got here. So it's like, right. But now I know something. You know what I'm saying? So now, that's what we do. Anyways, so, let's get back. Let's not go too far. So anyways, when you deal with the black person who has been disassociated, when Malcolm X was learning from Brother Baines and he was going through that dictionary, and I love that scene where it's like, White means this. Black means this. How's that? Now, they don't break down in the movie that Malcolm X's parents were Garveyites, you know what I'm saying? So, but, see, and we say in the temple, Marcus Garvey is a forerunner of the Prophet Noble Drew Ali in the same way that, say, John the Baptist was the forerunner of Jesus. They were people, and everybody, you always have to look in your life and look for forerunners and people that come along in front of you to make sure that people are ready to receive whatever it is that you say. Like if I say what I'm saying to you right now, oh, you're not going to understand if somebody didn't come and break it down to you first. If somebody didn't come and pave the way first so that you could receive whatever it is that I'm saying, then you can receive it. But if I just come to you straight raw, oh, you're not going to be able to understand what I'm saying. So you need a forerunner. But anyways, Malcolm X, his peoples was Garveyites. So when he came into the knowledge of the Nation of Islam, and then later on, after he had read the definition, then he goes into an organization and they were calling him black. And they were like, but now, you know, I'm not saying this against Nation of Islam. I love the nation. I was in the nation when I first came into the system. That's when I first started, you know, because I was so familiar with that coming up. That's how I was raised, pretty much. That, Hebrew Israelite, all types of knowledge, you know what I'm saying? My grandmother's Cherokee, you know what I'm saying, the Seminole, so it's like, yo, I got a whole host of stuff right there. But when he came in and they had to reach the people, the Nation of Islam had to reach the people where they were at because they were calling themselves blacks, they were calling themselves Negroes, they were calling themselves colored. So when you hear the Honorable Elijah Muhammad and the Honorable Brother Malcolm X or El Hajj Malik Shabazz, or you hear the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan and things like that, talk to the brothers, they, you know, they do refer to them in these ways because that's what they were calling themselves. You know what I'm saying? That's how they were. Their ears were already set. You're not going to respond. If you, in those days and times, the Nation of Islam could outcompete the Moorish Science Temple if you call it a competition, because nobody would understand that they were Moorish. So you put a big sign up top said the Moorish Science Temple of America Incorporated, people be like, I don't know what they're talking about. If you go in there and you say, oh, this is about the Moors in Morocco and this and that, you'd be like, oh, they're not talking to me. But if this one says, black people hear you, you'd be like, okay, yeah. You know what I'm saying? Or Negroes come on inside, like Marcus Garvey, he called his the Negro, what was it? United Negro Improvement Association. So UNIA. So it's like, yeah, I got to call the people, you know, what they know they're being called. Doesn't mean I'm going to leave you in that state, but it means that I got to call you what you're being called and what you're responding to. You know what I'm saying? Like you ask somebody, well, what's your name? Your name is whatever you respond to. You know what I'm saying? If you come in a room and yell out Charles, everybody ain't going to turn around unless your name is Charles or Chuck or something like that. But it's not going to ring like if you call my name. So anyways, in that scene, he was learning the definition of black, and he was like, yeah, actually black, according to science, does mean death. It means everything bad. So if you have a people being called that and calling themselves that, and if they go to look at the dictionary, it says that about them, well, that's what you're going to internalize that some kind of way. So the message here is to elevate those people out of that situation. So the divine origin, you have a divine origin, not a monkey origin, not a ape origin. You have a divine origin. So now when you start hearing this, you be like, a divine origin? You know what I'm saying? I connect to these people. Yeah, you were only told that you connect to sub-Saharan Africa. That's a lie. You know what I'm saying? That whole sub-Saharan Africa crap is a lie. You know what I'm saying? That's a way to circumscribe you, marginalize you, limit you. You know, that is not the truth. And you got so many NBCs, I'll say, going around talking about, I'm from sub-Saharan Africa. It's like, nah, that doesn't even make sense. Just we'll have another session on that one about sub-Saharan Africa and why they keep saying that. But anyways, so this chapter is important about understanding some more about you. Also, chapter 47 is important. Egypt, the capital empire of the Dominion of Africa. The inhabitants of Africa are the descendants of the ancient Canaanite from the land of Canaan. From the land of Canaan. Old man Cush and his family are the first inhabitants of Africa who came from the land of Canaan. From the land of Canaan. Came to Africa, what you're calling Africa, because Africa is not the name of it, but what you're calling Africa, the prophet said, well, they came to Africa. They didn't start in Africa, whatever you're saying. They came to Africa. Now we can go to the esoterics of that. We go what it really means. But anyways, so he said they came into Africa. He said his father Ham and his family were second. Then came the word Ethiopia, which means the demarcation line of the dominion of Amexem, the first true and divine name of Africa. So it didn't have that name, the Ifriqiya. You know, when they were fighting those wars between Lower Europe and the Afri or the Ifri, the Ifriqiya. Now, when you go get a book that you have to have when you are studying stuff in the temple, you got to have that Africana. Brother Henry Louis Gates, Dr. Henry Louis Gates Jr., and Kwame Appiah, they brother introduced me to that when I was on the mountain, level 4 prison. Yeah, brother Big Al, you know what I'm saying? Al Ruffin, Tough Money. So yeah, like, you know, I got, anyway, so yeah, the brother introduced me to that book. So I'm reading it, just, I was looking for it, just whatever, you know what I'm saying? My mind wasn't really locked on that. I was more locked on trying to fight my case and stuff like that. But they knew I knew stuff, and, you know, so they would always, you know, come, you know, yo, bro, boom, 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 boom. We chopping up, we building, blah, blah, blah. I got a certain type of mindset anyway, so I'm going to attract certain type of people around me anyway. Like, if you were in that prison or whatever, like, if you was on, probably not going to say that you have to be on some straight violent stuff, but, like, certain type of people going to be dealing with certain type of people, certain type of mentalities, you know what I'm saying? So that's the type of people I was dealing with when I was in there. And because I'm trying to get out of the dismal crypts, I'm reserving everything that I am. I'm just more so listening, and I'm taking in what they're saying about what was going on at this spot or what was going on here. So those brothers that was in there for 20, 30, 40 years already, when I'm coming in with the fresh 22, they like, you know, look, this what's going on, boom, boom. So I'm, okay, right. Okay, I don't know about that. Because, you know, when you come from the street, you ain't no scholar or nothing like that, because you was ripping, running, and gunning. So now you getting in there, you like, okay, right, okay. So they handing you the books and stuff. You like, all right, what is this? Okay, yeah, all right, yeah, I think I know this. Yeah, what? So that's really the importance of the Africana. Africana be breaking down stuff, but it only breaks it down to a certain level. It's not going to give you all the way up to the Moorish level. A Moor has to be able to navigate. That's what Moor is, a navigator. He has to be able to navigate through that knowledge, and that's in that book. And it's a beautiful book, but it goes up to a certain level of knowledge. But all those that can understand everything from that book. You know what I'm saying? It's a good start. But so anyways, you know, they break down certain things about Tunisia in the Ifri, the Ifriqiya, the Afri, and the Afriqiya, and where, you know, they don't be like, tell you straight up, like, this is where the word came from. Because they were fighting this group, this tribe, and at some point that tribe was run by a female, I think her name was Kahina, and she ended up, you know, it's a vicious story. But the land where that lower Europeans or whatever you want to call it had not even really gone into at that point. They were calling whatever that land was across the Mediterranean the Ifri, the land of the Ifri, the Ifriqiya. And later that became the word Africa, but it had a name before that. Just like North America had a name before it was called whatever it's being called today. Anyways, I digress. Let me go back. So if you go over to here where it says his father Ham and his family were second, then came the word Ethiopia, which means the demarcation line of the dominion of Amexem, the first true and divine name of Africa, the dividing of the land between the father and the son. The dominion of Kush, northeast and southeast Africa, and northwest and southwest was his father's dominion of Africa. In later years, many of their brethren from Asia and the Holy Lands joined them. The Moabites from the land of Moab. This is important because, you know, when you start talking about this, you're giving the information about, like, look, migration is not new to you. You have migrated all the time. You have people set up over here. You got people set up over here. You got people set up over here. You got people set up over all the way from this side of Africa, all the way to over this side, all the way over here. So, you know, no one can circumscribe you except for you. You know, if you want to circumscribe yourself, you can circumscribe yourself. Like we'll say, no one can do that to you but the great universal creator Allah himself. That means the God in you is doing that to you. You are doing that. So let me go back and keep reading. It says the Moabites from the land of Moab who received permission from the pharaohs of Egypt to settle and inhabit northwest Africa They were the founders and are the true possessors of the present Moroccan Empire, with their Canaanite, Hittite, and Amorite brethren who sojourned from the land of Canaan seeking new homes. Their dominion and habitation extended from northeast and southwest Africa across the Great Atlantis, even into the present North, South, and Central America, and also Mexico and the Atlantis Islands, before the great earthquake which caused the Great Atlantic Ocean. The river Nile was dredged and made by the ancient pharaohs of Egypt in order to trade with the surrounding kingdoms. Also, the Niger River was dredged by the great pharaoh of Egypt in those ancient days for trade, and it extends eastward from the river Nile westward across the Great Atlantic. It was used for trade and transportation. According to all true and divine records of the human race, there is no Negro, black, or colored race attached to the human family because all the inhabitants of Africa were and are of the human race, descendants of the ancient Canaanite nation from the holy land of Canaan. What your ancient forefathers were, you are today without doubt or contradiction. There is no one who is able to change man from the descendant nature of his forefathers unless his power extends beyond the great universal creator Allah himself. So now, like, okay, boom. No, let me read this part real quick. So this, this part right here. I'm going to skip down to verse 15. It says, the time has come when every nation must worship under its own vine and fig tree, and every tongue must confess his own. Through sin and disobedience, every nation has suffered slavery due to the fact they honor not the creed and principles of their forefathers. That is why the nationality of the Moors was taken away from them in 1774, and the word Negro, black, and colored was given to the Asiatics of America who were of Moorish descent, because they honored not the principles of their mother and father and strayed after the gods of Europe, of whom they do nothing. Yeah, you went off of that. That could be for anybody. I don't care what group it is. If you are Irish and you stray off of the path of your mothers and forefathers and go after something else, hey man, you might end up anywhere. Not saying that you can't learn and associate and integrate and deal with other people, but it's saying that don't you have to hold some kind of thing true to you? It's important. People love history. They love tracing themselves back. And, there's a movement in North America right now where people are, it's either one or two ways. They're either shaming you for trying to look into your history, or they're promoting it. So which side do you want to pick? You want to be one of the people that's, going against anybody that ever, or opposing anytime anybody ever talks and looks into their history, or you want to be one of the people that's actually looking into your history and going back. And, a lot of people traveling these days and they go into other countries and they look and they say, okay, right, I'm putting together the parts and the pieces because I've been miseducated. I've been bamboozled. You know what I'm saying? Like Brother Malcolm X say, we've been hoodwinked and bamboozled. Like, he's not just talking to us. He's saying, we've been hoodwinked and bamboozled. All the people, whoever, remember, think about this. Malcolm X was teaching in universities to Europeans. So he, the message, even though I might be talking to this person or talking to the message is for many people. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, just think about what I'm saying in relation to what you got going on. Don't worry about, and definitely nothing with the temple, Moorish Science Temple is racist or anything like that. We're actually against that type of definition or structure of race, because that's a social construct. It's something that was borrowed from or stolen from or implemented from a Brahmic caste system for the advancement of certain people and to take control of, whatever that people were trying to take control of, people using lessons falsely and such. And people were put into something that's called race, that any anthropologist will tell you that doesn't even actually exist. Like, whatever you're calling, if you're calling race, you're breaking it down to some white people and some red people and some yellow people and some brown people and some black people. That doesn't exist. It doesn't work like that. So, we got to rise out of that state of ignorance and, come into some higher light and knowledge. But anyways, so when you teach these things, when I learn these things, I'm like, well, I trace back to something that's much higher than, Negro, black, or colored, or has a longer history. That's why we say, honor thy father and thy mother, that thy days may be long upon the earth land that the Lord thy God Allah hath given thee. So when you honor your mother and father, or your grandmother and father, your great-grandmother, and keep going all the way back, not just to the shores here or to the shores of Africa or whatever, because a lot of people was already here. So when you do that and you honor those people, it says you make your life long. one verse it says longer. Every time you add on, you make it longer. You know what I'm saying? Not your physical life. It's everybody so caught up in trying to, I want to live for 5. Well, you know, we'll get to that subject too. But when it's talking about your life being longer, it means your history being longer. You know, if I can cut you off at 1619, like that project, the 1619 projects, it ain't nothing but a project. But if I can cut you off at the 1619 projects and, you know, and get rid of the rest of it, or make it obscure, or make it that you don't even understand what it is, yeah, then I can circumscribe you, I can limit you. But if I let you go beyond the 1619 projects, and I have you, you know, connecting yourself to your divine and vast estate, oh, now your life is long upon the earth land that the Lord thy God alive given to you. Now you start connecting to the Olmec heads, and you start connecting to the pyramid, you start connecting to this and that. Like, your life is long. There's many reasons why you are the way you are, or do what you do, you know. So anyways, you know, this is the part I'm going to give this. This is an honor to the prophet today. You know, this is his birthday, January 8th. You know, my name is R Ford-Bey. And, you know, drop this piece. And hopefully, you know, y'all like, share, subscribe, whatever that is. That you have to mess with these algorithms and stuff like that. But we're going to be coming to you, you know, more and more in the future. We're going to be hopefully talking to some brothers today. And from the inside, and getting that divine message, what they have to say, the purified thought that can only be in the dismal crypt sometimes, born of that place where people come there and do that learning process. You know, that's where John became John, you know, where he learned the ways of the harbinger. So, you know, that's the peace, that's the build. I came in Islam, you know, I leave in peace, love. You know, we say love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice. That's a divine principle. So that's what I'm going to leave you with. Islam. Peace.